All right. Welcome back to another episode of PTR Perspective. My name is Saqib Saeed, Chief Product Officer at PTR. We are continuing our discussions with the experts at CWIEME Berlin. My next guest is Mr. Nabeel Mancheri. He is the Senior Advisor of EIT RawMaterials, and in his previous role, he has acted as Founder and Secretary General of Rare Earth Industry Association, the Global Rare Earth Industry Association. Nabeel, welcome to the podcast. Thank you. Nabil, before we jump into the questions about rare earth materials and its role in the industry overall, tell us about your experience, your current role, as well as your previous role at the Rare Earth Industry Association, and how those expertise sort of are you're translating them into your current role.
Yeah. Thank you, Saqib, for giving me this opportunity to present my view on not only my current job, previous job, but also the rare earth industry at large, the market, etc. And I have been in the industry for more than 15 years now. I started the rare earth industry since my PhD way back in 2010. I was about to finish. And then the first crisis crisis happened with, in rare earth industry and rare earth market with Chinese restricting the export of rare earth material and going to Japan because of some territorial disputes. So then 2015, I moved to Europe in Netherlands with Institute of Environmental Sciences in Leiden University to work in the European projects. That's also on rare earths, looking at rare earth criticality in Europe. And then from there, how I formed REIA, Rare Earth Industry Association. This was an idea I had since the beginning of 2010, like attending this kind of events like CWIEME. So I saw there is no body to coordinate all these activities and also help the OEMs and tier ones to educate the public on criticality of rare earths, its importance to our daily life, because the application is huge. We use every day. Without them, you won't have your iPhone, and you won't have a electric car. So I applied while I was in Netherlands at the institute. I applied for a EIT RawMaterials project to have to build a database on rare earth elements. Basically, looking at, because that time you had in the media that rare earth production is too much environmentally polluting, but nobody has any clue. They also claim you generate a lot of radioactive material. I really want to have a look at how sustainable they are. So I made a proposal involving a couple of companies from Europe as the partners, and to build this database because they were into the rare earth business, along with a couple of universities. And the one objective of that project was that, okay, at the end you have the project results of this database, but also you need somebody to manage and build a network. So the second objective was to form a global rare earth industry association. And so when we finished, it was an EIT or EIT RawMaterials project. Finished, I have secured 12 founding members across the value chain, big OEMs and magnet manufacturers, including the one of the biggest Chinese company was part of founding the organization. So EIT RawMaterials, is also an introduction. It's a European Commission agency. EIT has other work streams, like we are EIT RawMaterials. We focus on raw material side, but also across the value chain. But EIT at its umbrella also has EIT manufacturing, EIT food, now EIT climate, and there are different, EIT InnoEnergy, for example. There are different streams of the EIT, that EIT, umbrella EIT fund. So through these sub EITs, EIT RawMaterials, we fund different projects on the raw material side. It could be rare earths, it could be recycling, it could be any raw material related, aluminum, copper, whatever you have. So that's how, through this project, that's how I started the journey through REIA. So we started with 12 founding members, and by last year we had about 90 members. And I thought it's going pretty well. It's made its presence all over the world. We were in Japan with the big conference in partnership with Japanese government organization called JOCMEC. And then I thought maybe it's time to, find something So it's kind of moving back to the parent, leaving your child, because the EIT raw material was the funding or co-organizer of this network. And it can focus on the global arena, including Chinese. Then we thought, okay, let's come back. I also kind of bit of overrunning throughout the world. So maybe a little bit focus on Europe. So maybe we could do something better in Europe. So I thought, okay, that's why I thought that maybe I'll join back the EIT raw materials as a senior advisor, to coordinate the effort in Europe. So that's how I turned back, joined the parents.
I
Yes.
see.
Yeah.
What an amazing and inspirational story overall, Nabeel. Like setting up an organization,
Yeah.
knowing that there is a lack of knowledge and information on some topic. As you said that you finished your PhD right at the time when this whole crisis was happening.
That's
But it's a very inspirational story. Before I jump into the questions, Nabeel, I'm pretty sure that 90% of our viewers and audience already knows about rare earth materials and their applications. But for the rest of the 10%, before I jump into the questions, define what rare earth materials are, please. What are the applications? You briefly mentioned in your introduction as well that
Yeah.
it's everywhere. But for everyone listening to us, maybe, to set the base,
Yeah.
could you please explain?
Yeah, we all have studied the periodic table in your 10th standard and 12th standard. So if you look at the periodic table, this is the, in the bottom line, you will see something called a lanthanide series. It's not a single element like copper, you have a single number.
Yeah.
But the rare earths are 17 elements, plus you put scandium and yttrium into there. So the applications are wide from electronics to electric mobility to wind energy to defense. A lot of defense in nuclear industry, its use. So largely the main applications. So the applications have also evolved over the years. Since last 5 years, 6 years, the importance of electromobility have grown. So is the application of rare earth in in these sectors. For example, the main application by market value is something called permanent magnet, rare earth permanent magnet, because these are highly efficient, both energy efficient and also when you put it in the system is highly efficient. For example, you can have alternate magnets like ferrite magnet we used to see in a speaker, on other applications, but that's not so good. So for the application, the permanent magnet is the most important one. It can reduce because on the speakers and your earplugs, you have even your mobile phone vibration. There is some magnets and sensors. It's very important, and so the current demand, especially China is going ahead with electrification of the car fleet, and Europe is following them. North America is following. So the demand for permanent magnets used in the motors, different motors, including electromobility, is growing every year many fold. That's one. Then we have the parallel side. We also are looking for the energy, renewable energy. So the renewable energy sector, the wind power sector is the main consumer. Especially, there's a growing installation of the offshore winds. A lot of countries are moving to the offshore because the availability of wind is much more than in the land, right? So close to sea. So most of the 100% of the offshore wind turbines use this technology, the motor or rotor based on the permanent magnet. But on the onshore, you have alternate technologies like a hybrid system of that. But also companies are also moving to the permanent magnet based motor because it's highly efficient, less maintenance. That's also the reason that most of the offshore companies use these motors because for maintenance and annual maintenance and also technical issues is much less compared to other type of. So the demand is going there much. And so like I said, so this main application is the permanent magnet based sectors.
So these areas like electrification in the transport sector and offshore wind,
Yeah,
these are
is the key
applications
application driving the market
the
now.
demand for rare earth materials. And I think that's where the whole conversation got intensified. Everyone then started to know about what the rare earth materials are right after these
Yeah, but also there is also niche market. for example, defense market, F-35 using these materials, also night goggle vision lasers, for example, different drones. These days the war is becoming more and more drones and robotics. All robotics, any robots you take, these magnet play a big role. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah, that's the main. So defense industry, maybe the overall demand is less, but it's strategic. It's strategic, it's niche, and so you need it. Otherwise, you won't be able to, perform as before.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Nabeel, the next question that is always linked with the rare earth materials is like China being the center of gravity. This has been a topic of discussion for many years, that not just the end product, but also throughout the supply chain, the dominance of Chinese companies has always been discussed. What are the steps that other countries are sort of taking or have taken to address this? I'm sure that this at some point becomes maybe a concern as well. To have it diversified across different, nations, regions, for example. So what are the steps, through policy or innovation that are being taken to address this topic?
Yeah. Both at it's an important question. Thank you for that. It's like you said before, it's a strategic sector. So because of the country's drive towards net zero, climate change, climate actions, but also its importance for the defense industry. So there is policy level actions taken by the various governments across the world, including Japan, now European countries, and also American countries. And there is also industry taking its own initiative to diversify the supply chain. It has not been success because of the market conditions, largely I would put, how the Chinese system work, because they have built this industry many years. So of course they will not be easy to give away their control. And so on the policy level, for example, you have in US, for example, incentives, government funding, investment in couple of magnet projects, processing projects, and even mining projects. In EU, we have been focusing on R&D projects of funded by the European Commission or my organization like EIT RawMaterials, finding alternate material for replacing. And we have been in EU. If you look at last 15 years, almost 500 millions of money has been spent for different projects to recover rare earths, to have mining project, but also recover rare earths from secondary raw materials streams, but also focusing on recycling, circular economy, and also have high efficient magnets or magnet production. So funding as and companies were also involved in these projects. I will mention later, one of the project that I coordinated this in CWIEME, of developing alternate material to replace rare earths in chromium magnets. So there have been effort going on. Some of them will see the light of able to supply in 1 year, 2 years. For example, there are a couple of projects coming up in Europe. They would be able to supply in Europe. The OEMs are committing, but also in US, there is commitment, there is investment going on. But this effort is not fully 100% decoupling from China. That's not the way it works in the market, because not only magnets, but other also this is a globalized world. Your whole supply chain is dependent on various countries. So you don't want to decouple completely, but at least a portion of your demand, if you are able to decouple or diversify, it's good enough. So to have certain percentage of your supply chain is diversified, these efforts are moving that direction. In a couple of years, the OEMs and tier one and the main customers will be able to diversify. So we are on right track.
So it's already a success that if you're able to...
It's on, not fully yet, but in a couple of years, we'll be there.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about CWIEME.
Yeah.
You've been attending CWIEME for a few years now. How has been the experience so far, and what's the significance of the event for your industry?
Yeah. The shows like CWIEME, I have been attending CWIEME, it's almost 5 years now, and I'm serving the advisory board. I also set up panels and sessions in CWIEME, public programs. So this is so good of bringing the whole industry together, where you meet and you make your deals. Yeah, the companies, you do a background check after you collect your card, you have a discussion, then you go back and check the background of the company. Then the show like QWIEME, where you make your deal for the business. So it's a I see this as positive to bring the industry from all over the world, not only for magnet supply chain, but also coil winding, copper, raw material, steel, etc. So I have been quite positive, and I have seen that the companies I cooperate with also come here, share their ideas, have their suppliers in the show. So they also arrange meetings, and so I think they have a good show here. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm glad that you're able to get the value
Yeah.
out of the event. That
Yeah, even I'm also personally, and also from my organization perspective, I'm able to connect. Network is the main, right? And so the networking is the main. I'm able to connect with new potential customers or suppliers from my business perspective. Not only, I'm not talking about always commodity trading or component trading, but also the services that we can offer, I can get from potential people. So it's a good place to be.
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nabeel, for your time. I'm pretty sure that our viewers got a lot of insight, especially on this topic,
Yeah.
which a lot of people talk about this, but I don't think that everyone understands the intricacies of how everything works. And especially, it was great to hear about how, sort of different regions and countries are trying to diversify the supply chain. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Peter Perspective. Thank you.